This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Fort Meigs CrossFit. Thanks to Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing me to use their space for my new studio. It's becoming a great partnership. They always allow me in here, work with me on my times to make sure I can put out regular episodes a week. So I really appreciate them. They got classes 7 days a week for any age group. They got all kinds of different classes. Check out their website at fortmeigscrossfit.com. Thanks also to 3 Different Dads. It's our other podcast on the Nerdball Network. We're putting out an episode every Wednesday morning. It's a lot of fun. We've had a couple fill-in dads the past week just to bring in some new personalities, new things to the podcast. So check that out wherever you get podcasts. And you can email the show at 3, spelled out, THREE, 3differentdads@gmail.com. My guest today, I met last year working at the Metroparks. She ran a group of volunteers, and she was a great person to talk to on a daily basis. She has a lot to say, and that was fun too. She always had something new to talk about. So I invited her on here to learn more about her, about where she grew up, really what she's into. Come to find out, she can get talked into a lot of things. So that was fun. And then a lot about her kids, just a lot of random stories, which is a really cool episode. Just that, we were kind of bouncing all over the place, but it was cool to learn all these new things. And obviously I talked to her, a couple times a week last summer. So just to be able to sit and talk to her for an hour was a real great experience. So I look forward to you guys listening to this episode. Let me know what you think. Email the show at the Nerdball podcast at gmail.com. Find us on all our social media. So thanks for checking out the episode.
Hi, this is Sarah, and this is the Nerdball podcast.
This is the Nerdball podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
That is exactly the way I thought you would do it. And it's perfect. You nailed it. Do you feel good about it?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, then, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Sure.
Sarah, we met last year, right? When you worked for Harbor, and you helped, you basically led 2 volunteers for us around our park, helped us clean up the park. Huge. At the Metroparks, our volunteers are like big for us, and by you being there and leading those kids around, and it was good because sometimes we've had other people lead groups where we're not super confident that they can do it, but I was always like, hey, Sarah, you got this today, cool. And like I didn't have to have another person with you, I didn't have to be there, so I appreciate you and you wanted to be out there.
And I loved it because you trusted me and allowed me to do my thing because a lot of people will micromanage, which is fine. You know what I mean? Not that that's a great thing to do, but you trusted me enough and you allowed me the freedom with the kids, which was great. And, I kind of felt like I owned the park for the day. It was fun.
Yeah, well, good. Well, again, thank you for that. So you have been listening to a few of the episodes, which I appreciate. I always like new listeners or listeners in general. So you're well aware, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before the podcast. The first question I ask everybody is, what is something you've been into lately? Something you're a hobby, something cooking, cleaning, if you found a new way to do whatever, something, books, movies, anything. What is something you're kind of been into lately?
Great question. So I have been pondering this after listening to your podcast and stuff. And I'm like, I like a lot of different things. I guess with my personality, I'm always up for a new adventure. So I have 3 kids. My youngest is almost 18. And we always did a lot of fun things as they were growing up. And I guess I'm in this stage of my life kind of like equate it to the empty nester syndrome.
Yeah.
So it's like, who is Sarah apart from her family? Because I love doing things with my family, but now I have a lot more time to myself. So I've been doing some paint by numbers.
Yeah. So it sounds funny, but I think that's awesome because I used to have, and maybe this is even worse. I used to have an app on my phone where it was a paint by number thing, and you just click, and it puts in a certain color.
No. Okay, see, now this is annoying to me because people, I have an app, I do this, I do that. It's like, there's a difference, though, but I know what you're talking about.
No, I'm just saying mine's way worse than... than actually
No,
painting.
actually, it probably would look better on a phone doing that painting than what I'm doing, because actually I have bifocals now, right? So I'm looking at it and the numbers are so microscopically small. And then I have all these paints and I'm like, and I'm painting. And so I've had the same painting that I've been working on since my birthday, which was in February.
Really?
And my husband said to me the other day, "Are you going to finish this?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "It's all therapy, honey. I'm just taking my time. And when it's all said and done, it's probably going to just look amazing."
Yeah.
Not, maybe.
Well, it's have you seen those things? They're very similar to color by number or paint by number, where it's like they're like little squares, almost like little gems, and you put them on and stick them on.
Yes.
There. Yeah.
I have a couple good friends that really got into those. And one of the ladies that I work with even made me one. And I think it's really cool. I have not tried it yet, though.
It looks cool. It looks fun. Yeah.
But my concern is I'm kind of clumsy. So, like, losing these little things or not placing them right, I don't know. I overthink things too much. But, yeah.
It comes with a lot of tools, so to make it a little less.
And I would need a lot of tools.
That's good to know about yourself, right?
Yeah,
Like this is how I have to do things, right? So paint by numbers. We also talked how before the podcast we talked about hiking a little bit, because you said you have a bunch of stuff in your basement, but it just doesn't get used.
Yes. So my husband and I have been married now for 25 years. And when I first met him, he actually took care of my grandmother because he did therapy. And he was exciting. I really liked him. And he talked about all this hiking he did. He went to the Adirondacks. He did all this hiking. And I was like, oh, this is a cool guy.
Yeah.
So when he asked me out on a date, I was super excited. And our second date, actually, he took me on the Boy Scout trail out in
Oak Openings? Yeah.
And he packed our backpacks and we did the 17-mile hike. And I was like, this is the man of my dreams. Like, oh my, and we had so much fun. Like, he really paid attention. He got to know me over our talks and stuff. So, like, he had my favorite candy bar, which I'm not even a big fan of candy bars, but at that time I must have mentioned at some point in time that I liked this candy bar. So he had that. He was smooth. And like what kind of yogurt I liked. And so we're doing this backpacking trip on the Boy Scout trail, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is definitely the man I'm going to marry. And that was probably the last major backpack hiking trip we've taken.
And that was like date number what?
2.
Okay. So a couple questions. Did you hike before that? Like, were you a hiker before that trip?
No.
Okay. Okay. How sore were you after the trip? Were you okay? Were you good?
I was sore, but I don't remember because I was a lot younger too then. So I was like 21. So no, I wasn't.
Okay.
But funny story, fast forward, it was on I want to say our 11th year anniversary or something. I thought I was going to be real cool and real crafty. And I'm like, I'm going to get out the backpacks and I'm going to create this first date, even though it was like our second date. Maybe it was our third. I don't remember exactly, but it was in the new stages. I was like, I'm going to create this cool, romantic, connected backpacking trip. And so I told my husband, and I was like, we're going to do this. We're going to reenact. We're going to fall in love. We're going to have the same experiences we did and all this stuff. And it was probably about mile 6 into the 17th mile. And my husband was like, I can't do this.
Oh, really?
It might have been like mile 9. I don't want to like make him sound terrible, but we were a lot older at the time. And maybe it was like our 15th year anniversary. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
But like he was a lot sore. And so we never finished it. And so that's still one of these days.
Your unfinished anniversary day. Yeah, you got to finish that. So the second question, the thing that popped in my mind immediately was, for a second date to go on this hike seems, for a woman, seems like I'd be nervous about it. Like, okay, you're sending me on this hike. Now, obviously, there's so many podcasts and movies and stuff about all the murders and all that kind of stuff. But that was immediately what popped in my mind. I was like, oh man. Usually dates are like, hey, we want to go in this public place during the day. People are going to see us.
No. Matter of fact, we did whitewater rafting down in West Virginia when we dated. And to be honest, I'm terrified of a lot of different things.
Okay.
And what I try to tell myself through life is, because I actually have a lot of anxiety and stuff, is like, how do you conquer that? You just do it. So I'm an overthinker sometimes. And so sometimes I just have to not think about things and just do it. Now, obviously that's within a safe realm or whatever.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, when we did our whitewater rafting trip, the guide kind of picked up on my anxiety because I ask a lot of questions too. And he put me in the back right next to him. It was funny because I was asking questions like, and I'm sure people on the boat were like, shut her up. I was like, so has anybody died on this trip before? And like, what was the worst experience you've ever experienced? And da-da-da-da. And I remember at one point in time during the whitewater rafting trip that we did, and mind you, so there's an upper gully and a lower gully, and this is in West Virginia, and I can't remember the name of the place or whatever, but back then, and I don't know what it's like now, you have to have some experience to do one over the other. And I think we did the upper gully, which is a little bit more challenging, and I had no experience.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, just say you do. So yeah. And I'm trying to remember back, so I'm trying to remember all I know is, and I'm afraid of dirty water. Now I can swim.
Wait. Specific. That's super specific, like dirty water. That's just because you can't like see in it, right? Okay, all right.
There might be alligators in
Sure,
there.
sure.
I mean, even though we're in Ohio, people put weird things in water, so I don't trust
No, I
it.
feel it.
So sharks, there could be sharks. There could be a whale. You don't know.
Just I've never heard the phrase "dirty water," so like. Because I feel that too, like, oh, I can't see through there, but I've never, like, I'm definitely going to start saying that now, like, yeah, I'm afraid of dirty water. And then people will be like, why? And I can explain to them, but yeah, that's funny.
Well, do you remember, okay, and I'm going on a rabbit trail here, but do you remember Fear Factor?
Yeah.
I used to love that show.
Yeah.
The part of the show that I did not like in Fear Factor was the eating of the nasty things.
yeah.
That's not a fear. That's just gross. Okay?
Yeah, I guess no one fears to eat bull testicles. That's not a fear
No,
of people.
that's just gross and disgusting. But they do that, I'm sure, for the drama or whatever. The fears were dirty water. I remember there was one where this lady had to crawl through a tunnel in the dark, and there was water in it. I was like, I don't think I could have done that. Well, maybe I could. I just do it, don't think about it and stuff like that. Like jumping out of an airplane. Like, I'm afraid of heights.
But
That's another fear of mine.
Those
are fears.
Is the water dirty if you can't see it, though?
In my eyes, yes. Yes. Because to me, like, clean water is like your pool or the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I've gone on a lot of cruises with my husband, and I know what clear, beautiful water looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you just assume that any water that's in a tunnel underground is not clean.
Right.
Which is good.
The Muddy Mall me. It's very dirty. You cannot see. And when I was a kid, and here's another rabbit trail, I had a friend in the small town that I grew up in that wanted to take me tubing on the Maumee. And I was like, okay. Again, I was up for an adventure and stuff.
Yeah.
Scared to death of dirty water. Yeah. Never told anybody. So they get me in that inner tube. They were never able to throw me off. And you want to know why? That fear drove me into that tube so hard. I never fell off that tube. Nope. And they were trying.
That's funny. I can just picture you just white knuckling it the whole time. Like,
Yep.
She is really.
She's amazing.
Is this an Olympic sport? Because she's going to win.
Yep.
Oh, that's so good.
Mm-hmm. But going back to the whitewater rafting trip real quick. So the guide had me back there, and I was asking questions. I was being obnoxious. As a matter of fact, if I had been hooked up to a podcast and heard myself later on, I would be like, I can't stand this woman. So at one point in time, everybody in the raft jumped out, and they were all going to go on the bank and climb up and jump off this cliff. Yeah. Again, I'm all up for an adventure, but I had to jump into the water, which I was like, So everybody left me, and I'm here with this guide looking stupid. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I jumped in the water, and of course I was very dramatic about it, and I swam to the edge trying to catch up to everybody. Yeah. And we're walking, and I'm like, where are we going? We get all the way up to this high cliff. Ugh. I'm not even exaggerating. It had to have been 20 foot. To me, it was extremely high. I mean, but anyway, they're all jumping off. And I'm like, I got to jump into the water. And then, mind you, there's still rapids. We're in a light rapid area. Yeah. And they tell you before you do this, like, you keep your foot up. There's like different rules and stuff like that. And I'm not like a professional on all this. But anyway, all this stuff is going through my mind. I'm an overthinker. So everybody is like jumped off this cliff, and I'm still standing there. Because mind you, I'm afraid of heights. Yeah. I'm afraid of dirty water. I'm like, I can't jump. So I jumped. Arms flailing. I hit the water, and I I come up and I'm coughing and I'm freaking out and I'm thinking about, I got to keep my legs up. I got to do this. I got to catch up everybody. And I just remember everybody saying, Sarah, breathe when you see birds, not when you see fish. And before you knew it, the guide had pulled me up, put me back in the boat, and I did not fall out of that boat the rest of the trip. And I was like paying attention.
You know, in this first 10 minutes of talking here on this podcast, what I have learned is that you succumb to peer pressure pretty easily.
Probably. Yep.
Hey, we're going on this white rapid trip. It's for super professionals. Just say you're one. All right, I'll do it. Hey, we want to jump on this cliff that I'm definitely afraid of? No. Oh, everyone else will do it. All right, I'll do it.
Yep, might as well. I mean, you only live once, but I will tell you, I would not jump out of an airplane.
Yeah. I don't know. If 14 people said they're going to do it, you might.
I'd be like, I will watch you from the bottom, because I actually know a woman who, her testimony, she jumped out of an airplane and her parachute did not open.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
she fell and she survived. And it's her testimony. And so I have that story in the back of my mind all the time. Like, I actually know somebody. No, I'm good. Because my son, our oldest son, he went into the Marine Corps. He's now out, and he married his wife, and she's a Marine. Anyway, they're out now. But there was a point in time that he was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go jump out of airplanes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like, he's my wild, adventurous one. I'm like, you go, honey. You go.
I thought you were going to say you don't want to jump out of a plane because you don't like dirty air.
I don't like that either. Although, isn't the air cleaner when you're higher up, maybe?
I don't know.
Yes.
All right. So you've it sounds like the hobbies that you do or that you have done, you're like kind of not necessarily pushed into them, but they're not necessarily on top of your list. Are there things like right now you're like, I want to do this thing. I want to do these things. Something that you're actually like looking forward to, as opposed to like, well, everyone's doing it, I guess I'll do it.
I love to travel and experience new things. So I want to go to the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
And that's something that's like on my bucket list. I'd really like to take like a packing mule and like go down to like the river part of it. And like, I believe they have like river rapid boats or whitewater rafting boats or whatever you call it, down below that you could take. Like, and I think it would be cool, like if they had like where you could camp, because again, my husband and I, when we were dating, he took me up to Michigan and we went on the Asabo, and we actually camped. We did a trip where we went along the river, and then we spent the night in a tent, and he washed my hair in the river because he was so romantic. And we did fun things like that.
Sure,
So I'm always up for like an adventure, a safe adventure. Like, I'm not one to like, let's go look for bears or something like that. But I like to travel, and I have done a lot of traveling actually. And I just like people.
Okay.
Like, I like learning from people and experiences. And that's probably why I succumb to peer pressure a little bit, because like if I see somebody enjoy something or they really hype it up or talk about it, I don't want to miss out on that.
Sure. Yeah.
Because of my fears, because I have a lot of them,
You don't want yourself holding you back.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. I get it. Have you traveled? You talk about travel. Is it just in the United States, or have you traveled outside the United States?
So prior to meeting my husband, I only traveled to Wisconsin to visit my dad, because my parents divorced when we were younger. So I really didn't do a whole lot. So when I met him, he was like, I've been everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's go. So like we got married in Tennessee. We went on a cruise. So I've been to so many different islands. Like, I should have wrote them out for you. Like, we've probably been on like 13 cruises.
Oh, okay. All right.
Where we've done a lot of different things. Now, granted, when you go on a cruise, you only get off the ship and you only have so many hours and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we would just go to like the local beach, and just hang out and see what the locals are like and experience, because I love the beach. I love the water, stuff like that. But yeah, I've been a lot of places. I did a actual missions trip to Jamaica years ago, and I went there. I've also gone there as a trip from a cruise, but prior to that, my first time I went to Jamaica, I did a missions trip, and I worked on a dental team for 1 week. And then I worked I actually worked in the pharmacy which I'm not pharmaceutical whatsoever. But you go there as a volunteer, and I was a nurse's aide at the time in my life, so I had a little bit of medical experience, if you will. And so, yeah, I did whatever they told me and helped out, taught kids how to brush your teeth. What else did I do? Filled prescriptions, through the medical team that we were working with that was treating some of the Jamaicans that we saw and stuff.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Actually, like helping people just in general. Like just being able to help people and do stuff like that. I really do enjoy that type of.
Well, I mean, that's how I met you. Like coming to the parks and helping us and helping the kids and everything. So yeah, that tracks definitely for your life, right? Did you grow up around here, or you said you went to visit your dad in Wisconsin? Did you grow up out there?
No. So I was born in Defiance, Ohio.
All right, so was I.
You were?
Yeah. I was there for, I think I was maybe a year, first year of my life. My dad and mom had a place out there. Yeah.
Well, I lived and grew up in a small town called Florida, which is between Defiance and Napoleon.
Yep.
Have you heard of Florida, Ohio?
We drove through there because I would remember Florida and I remember Texas. There's a Texas, Ohio along the river there.
Matter of fact, Texas is outside of Liberty Center. So when I moved when I was older, I lived on the Fulton-Henry County line in Liberty Center, went to Liberty Center School, graduated from Liberty Center, and Texas was just down the road from where I lived in Liberty Center, too. So I know where Texas is, and I know where Florida is. A lot of people don't know that, though.
We spent a lot of time out there because my grandparents lived in Hamler.
I know where Hamler is. Yes.
So we would drive, at the time they didn't have the new 24, so we would drive right down the river the whole time from Toledo. They'd take us over there. So yeah, I remember as a kid, like every twice a month or something, we go to my grandparents' house and just seeing that Texas sign and like I was like, man, that's so weird. Like as a kid, you know Texas is a state, but then it's this tiny town that you blink and you're through it,
And as a kid, and I'm still good friends with my best friend growing up, Lisa. Matter of fact, she just went with me to Virginia to visit my dad. Oh. So I do love to travel, I do it on my own. So I rope, a friend if my hubby can't go or whatever, or I just go by myself. And we went to Virginia to visit my dad here recently. But anyhow, her and I grew up in Florida together and became the bestest of friends. We used to walk along the towpath.
Yeah.
Again, I was afraid of heights. So her and another friend of mine would walk underneath the bridge. Probably shouldn't be saying that. But anyway, because it's probably not safe, kids. If you're listening, don't do this type of stuff. Anyway, underneath the bridge, you could literally walk on this small ledge. And we used to do all kinds of weird, fun stuff like this. I didn't. I would only go out so far, and I would then I'd go back, and then I'd safely walk across the bridge and meet him on the other side because dirty water.
Through the Maumee you're talking about.
Yes.
Walking through the Maumee, yeah.
And the Florida, Ohio, I don't know the name of the bridge, but there's a bridge that connects the town to the other side of the river.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we used to hang out under that bridge, and then there's a towpath, and we used to walk from Florida to Defiance to the Independence Dam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Lots of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were in high school, you said you went to Liberty Center. What were you into there?
So I wasn't cool.
Oh, no?
No. No.
So
honestly,
you're saying your coolness is new to you right now?
So if you can believe this, I was kind of awkward when I was a teenager. I was really shy.
Okay.
Probably people would have probably been concerned about me because now, I don't want to get too serious. I want to keep it lighthearted here.
No, we're good.
I grew up, both my parents are divorced 3 times.
Wow.
So I had a lot of stuff I was working through
Sure.
as a teenager, and so I was kind of probably depressed even though people didn't know it and stuff. And I was quieter. So, and I actually left Liberty Center High School and went out to Fort County. You know Fort County?
Yeah, Fort County's like Penna.
Yep.
All right, okay.
Yep. And I did banking and secretarial out there. And I actually was vice president of my class out there. But I missed a lot of school. I was, unhealthy in many ways and stuff like that. So I wasn't always in school. But when I was in school, I was really well liked. Obviously, I got asked to be vice president. That was voted by the peers in my class. But, I had self-esteem issues and all that jazz back then. So I wasn't involved in any sports. I wasn't any of that stuff. I could have been. I could have been. But I didn't have the self-esteem or the parental support, if you will, probably.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why when I had my own kids and got married, I've always been a big advocate and encouragement. And not just my kids, all kids. Don't let things hold you back, go for it. And I try to encourage, kids and stuff like that. Because looking back on my high school years, Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah, and once they're done, they're done. Like
They're
you
done.
can't do it. You can't go back. You know, and like you said, all you can do is like, well, here's how I felt. I want to make sure other kids don't feel that way.
Yep.
Right. I don't want to miss out on opportunities. I mean,
Yep.
I have two younger sisters. The one right below me, she told my dad one time, I think she had just got out of high school and said, Dad, I wish you and Mom would have made me do more things.
Yeah.
And then, so we have a younger sister who's 7 years younger, and my parents made her do everything. Like they was like, you're gonna play an instrument, you're gonna do this sport. You're gonna
I
do
did
this
that too.
club,
Yep. All my kids had to play an instrument. Yep.
Yeah. So like they didn't want that. They took that from my sister. Like, well, we don't want Martina to feel that way too. So they were, had her do a bunch of stuff, and she never complained. She'd pick and choose. She played softball, and then just. When she got into high school, I think her freshman year, she was like, I'm just done. I don't want to play softball anymore. Same thing with instruments. Like she would play the viola. And I just remember going over there
cool.
as a kid. I was, this is probably in like 6th grade, maybe 7th grade. And I'd go over there. I'm like, what is that noise? It's not good. My dad's like, she's learning. You got to start somewhere, So just trying all those things. Same thing with our kids. Like we put them in all kinds of stuff. And they're 11 and 8, and so they've chosen some things now that they like and don't like,
Exactly.
But we want you to try everything.
And providing them the opportunities, and not everybody can provide, the opportunities and stuff. But there's a lot of things that you can do that don't cost money, and there's a lot of things that you can do that do cost money, right?
Yeah.
So, like for my kids, our kids, like they're not just mine, our kids. I wanted to provide them with as many opportunities as we could. Now, mind you, when our kids were little, I stayed at home with them, so we didn't have a lot of money. And that was the other thing that was important to me. And I actually homeschooled for a while. I wanted to stay home with the kids. I wanted to be everything, I think all parents do. We want to be everything to our kids that we didn't have, yada, 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 So, my kids all got into swimming. My daughter did dance for a while. They all had to play an instrument. And my biggest thing with them all the time was, just try. Just give it a try. If you don't like it, we'll find something different,
Yep.
But always have fun. I'm a competitive person, but I always check myself whenever I do something. If my competitiveness outweighs having fun or hurting somebody else, then it's not fun, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to encourage, well, my kids are a lot older now, experience what you like. So that could backfire too.
Sure, but if parents have done a good job, like those things,
and we all try to do our best, right?
Yeah, as long as you've done what you think is the best, then those choices, whatever fun they might have, is going to be better fun than bad fun. So that's all. That's all part of it too. But you really don't know. You cross your fingers. I had a friend of mine. He's a comedian friend of mine. His name's Mike Czar. He had a joke. Where he talked about he goes raising. I don't want to mess it up, but I think he said raising kids is it's like a time bomb. Like you don't know, you can do your best, and then in 18 years it explodes. You're like, well, I guess that's what happened.
Yep. And our oldest son, Andrew, he's going to be 23. We're actually having a little party for him tonight. He was in the Marine Corps. He just got out. He's married now. He married himself a Marine wife, too. They're both out. But anyway, long story short, he was always my adventurous kid.
Yeah.
And all over the place. Always up for a new adventure. Probably kind of like his mom,
Sure.
but to the 1,000th degree. Just way more than me. But anyway, when he was younger, he tried karate, he tried taekwondo, he tried swimming. And he was a great swimmer for many years. He did soccer, baseball, and I was okay with that. Let's give it a try. I wanted him to experience things. We never did travel or anything like that, that serious.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun. And my greatest memories with the kids, they were all 3 swimmers. And we would do swim meets every weekend. It was with the Y. We had a really great group of kids. It became like the family. Mm-hmm. And, they loved it. They loved that. And those were the greatest memories. And I'll tell you, when that all came to an end, because then my oldest son, he went into the Marine Corps. So then it was just 2 younger ones. And then they were swimming. Then our daughter, she left and she went into the Air Force. And then now we got the youngest one. And then COVID hit. So then there was no sports. And unfortunately, our youngest son, when that all hit, he's different than the other 2, so he's totally fine with chilling out at home, not doing anything. He was one that I always had to keep involved, keep kind of encouraging him, because once he kind of stopped, he was fine with stopping, and I was kind of that parent.
okay.
No, you're not stopping. You
Yeah.
got to be healthy. You got to do this. You got to do that. So anyway, I've just like encouraged him recently, even though he's a junior in high school and stuff, and he's not really playing any sport. Now he played soccer, to be fair. He broke a couple bones.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story. So he was like, I'm done with that. So he's fine though. He's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, you gotta get over these fears. Like, you break another bone, so be it. We'll fix
Yeah.
it. You know, I'm like, keep going. And so he's like, no, Mom, I'm content. Well, then just recently I was like, CJ, that's his name. I'm like, honey, I really want you to get involved in something because, you know, you're a junior and these are the best years of your life.
Yeah.
And when you get out of there, you're not going to have all these opportunities. So he's like, Mom, I am involved in something. I'm like, what? He's playing flag football.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I love to watch football, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a Green Bay Packers
Yep.
fan. Okay. So does he watch football with me? No. Does he care about football? No. Did he tell me that he's playing flag football? No. So then I was like, when did this start? Oh, a couple weeks ago, you know, da, da, da. And he's like, I think I'm going to try out for football next year.
Oh, wow.
What? Never played football.
Yeah.
He thinks he's
Yeah.
just going to just try out.
So he'll be a senior next year?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Well, what school does he go to?
St. Francis.
Okay, all right.
You really think a senior that's
So-
never played football, they're going to be like, come on the team. I mean,
No, so here's what I tell you. We've had, you know, I've coached football for a long time, and we've had kids who come out. Obviously, we want them to come out as freshmen, right? We've had kids come out as juniors and as seniors, and you know, if wherever
Really?
they're at, they're we never, and at St. Francis probably the same way. Like, no, we're never going to turn people away.
Right. Right.
Now, I don't know where his skill level is. That'll depend on how much playing time he gets or what he does. All I can tell him, or I'll tell you, and if he listens to this, he can hear this. As a football coach, like especially those kids that come out late, juniors and seniors, what we always look for is like, how hard are you going to work? Even now, like I'm sure they have weightlifting, so I would suggest for him to start weightlifting
He
with the
just started
team.
getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah, so find the football team, start weightlifting with the team, go to all the summer workouts. This is his last year chance. You'll work as hard as you can and try to be on special teams. Try to find the field any way you can. But coaches, when we get those kids that come out late, we always look for just how hard are you working? Like,
Right.
yes, we realize you came out late, and 9 times out of 10. They are hard workers because they realize, like, man, I should have been doing this sooner. And so make sure he's like doing all that pre-workout stuff, you know, now and in the summer before the season starts.
And help me to make this sense. Okay, so he's
Yeah.
a swimmer, right?
Okay.
He's going to a school that has amazing swimmers.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, CJ, join the swim team. It's what you already know, and
Yeah.
you're good at it. Nope. He tried wrestling for a minute. He decided that wasn't for him.
Yeah.
So, which was interesting to me, but we roll with it again because I'm always encouraging new
Yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah.
But now, so he stopped soccer. He could play soccer for that. He doesn't want to do that because he's broken a few bones, right?
Yeah.
But he wants to play football?
My guess is
That's a big contact sport.
My guess is it has to do with friends. Like here's my friends. My friends do these things. Maybe he likes swimming or he's good at swimming, but he has no friends that swim.
Well,
You
he
know,
actually
I don't
does
know.
have 2 friends that swim, but yes, I know exactly where you're going with this, and I think you're absolutely right because
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
he has this friend that he's been hanging out with, Marcus, who's a really good football player, and this kid is just encouraging my son,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
This is probably terrible of me to say, but I'm just like, but is my son a football player? I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe
that's-
he has
parents-
this hidden talent.
Yeah, and parents think about that all the time. And we'll talk as coaches, like when we go through our rosters, like I don't even know if this kid likes to be out here. He's cool. You know, even those kids that aren't good at football, but they want to be on the team and they're good teammates and they go to workouts. Like we can deal with those. It's
Right.
the kids who like are just knuckleheads or whatever. Their
Right.
parents are making them play football. Those are harder kids to deal with because we know they don't want to be there.
Right.
But you know, as long as your son wants to be out there,
Yeah.
People are going to encourage him and people want him to do with it. And obviously, there's going to be friends who say, like, yes, come play football. They see, like, not necessarily like he's going to start.
Right.
But they see, like, well, you're athletic enough, you can play football. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm just going to practice and never see the game? Maybe, you know, or maybe it's I get to be on special teams and I get to be on kickoff or whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. But as long as he's a good teammate and good friend, like, it's going to be a good experience.
And I try to tell
Yeah.
our kids all the time, you know, the experiences.
Yeah.
Like, you know, not everybody is the star player. We love watching the star players, right? It's fun.
Yeah.
And we love to see our team win, but there's more to it than just that. And I learned that through swimming. There's no I in team. I always tell this to my kids, and it's fun to see the positive, and you always want to make it positive.
Yes.
You really want to, because you want these kids to have great experiences, because they're going to grow up and hopefully have kids someday. It may not, and that's fine. But if they do, they can carry on these memories and be that for their kids or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so I'm all for it. Like, I'm just cracking up listening to CJ talk, because we went out to dinner last night and he was going on about flag football and how he made 2 touchdowns and all this stuff. And I was like, that's awesome, you know? And he was really getting into it. And I'm just like, who is this child? It's kind of cool. And now he got himself his own membership and he's going to work out, and which is great, because I'm always healthy. Let's just be healthy.
Yeah.
Mind, body, soul, everything. Let's just be healthy. Yeah. So get out there, work out. And if you're just there to hang out with your teammates and even be an encourager and just do the workouts and make the memories, great.
You know what's funny is
warm up that bench. Great. You know what I'm talking about.
But it's good that he has parents like you, that because there are parents like, no, you're not going to play football. They would just shut stuff down right away. But he's excited about it and he recognizes it, and and you recognize it and wants to be a part of it. You said he goes to St. Francis, right?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Perrysburg plays St. Francis the first week this coming season.
Oh boy!
I don't know where it's at. I can't remember offhand. But if he does play on the football team, then we'll definitely see him. I'll see him out there. Yeah.
And it's funny, because in my mind, I always dreamed that I would have a boy that played football, right? And I wasn't even a big football fan growing up. If you want to talk football with me, I don't know all the plays and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I enjoy watching it. And I went to my first NFL game this year, and it was so much fun. And, Aaron Rodgers is leaving the Packers, whatever.
Did you go to Lambeau Field?
I did.
Nice.
I did.
Yes.
I have family from Wisconsin, so we all went together. It was a horrible game.
Who'd they play?
Detroit.
Okay.
And lost.
You thought for sure, they're playing the Lions, they're going to win. This is going to be a great trip. And then
it was a mess.
Yeah.
It was a mess. But it was so much fun. I was really bummed about that game, but at the same time, it was so much fun, and the whole experience was. So I always and who got me into football too, and this is on another rabbit trail here, was one of my students.
Oh, yeah?
Because I was trying to connect with a student.
Yes.
Knew nothing about it. They were a Green Bay Packer fan.
Okay.
So my cousin's a Green Bay Packer fan. So he'd send me the stats all the time. Then I started watching the games. Then I started enjoying the games. And then my dad's a Minnesota Vikings fan, but he watches the Green Bay Packers. And so it just kind of connected me with cousins, with my dad, and in a different way, my student. And now I love it. I'm bummed when football season's over.
Yeah.
And now that Aaron Rodgers is going with the Jets, I'm encouraged to watch the Jets, not just because I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I love Aaron Rodgers, but I'm excited. I'm going to still be a Packers fan to see what happens with our team on the Packers. But now it's kind of getting me to blend into other teams and pay more attention to other teams and just,
There is a lot of, there's all kinds of reasons that people get into sports. I did the same thing with reading a book. Every once in a while, I used to mentor kids at various Perrysburg schools. And there was one kid where we started reading a book together, and it was cool because it was I like reading books, but it was fun for this kid to I don't know if he read books a lot, but he likes baseball, he likes sports, right?
Yep.
So I found a Moneyball is what we started reading. But then getting into something, like I said, it's whatever it is, however it gets you into it, then you realize I actually do like this thing.
Yep.
And it's funny that it started with just trying to connect with somebody.
Yeah. And then you learn about different, and that's part of, that goes back to, what do you like to do? I like to learn from people and experience new things, because there's a lot of things out there that sometimes we don't think about or experience just because we're not open to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying be open to everything, obviously. You know what I mean? But, life is really essentially short. I know that sounds cliche and stuff, and it's and there's a lot of ugly things that we can look at when we wake up, right? I try not to focus on that stuff. I try to think about what can we create positively, and then you said you mentored. That's amazing. We need a lot more mentors in this world to reach to these kids, because these kids need it, especially with everything that's been going on, and like COVID didn't help anything,
Yeah.
and like finding out, what they like. They may not know either until you provide them that experience, or like you said, you start reading a book with them. I think that's awesome.
I can't imagine, like, I just think about the kids you had last year when you would work at the parks and, like, how much you talk to them. And after a while, I would assume after a while, they don't even say words that they're in their head. They're like, all right, Miss Sarah, okay. But you're just trying to, like, give them information, talk to them. That's what I would do. I'd be the same way, like, anything to get them to converse back. Like, what can we get here,
And it's funny that you say that because I do talk a lot.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
making
all right,
up.
though.
I'm making up for the times when I was younger and I didn't, and I held back. You know what I mean? But like with kids, and depending on the kid, you got to know your demographic. You got to know what you're working with, and you got to know that fine line, and that's getting to know the person. Like, you can become annoying and do too much, and I try to always be sensitive to whoever I'm working with or talking to, not to overstep my boundaries or be too much. Because I was once told by my daughter I'm a little extra. I still use that to this day.
Oh,
She's
okay.
like, Mom, and I'm like, I'm going to live up to this, know? But like, how do you get to know somebody? Like, you're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
How do you get to know somebody? You what?
You ask questions.
You
talk
ask
to 'em.
questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I've been told a lot of times, I'm nosy, I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, you can look at it that way. You can say, oh, she's nosy, or you can look at it and be like, she's inquisitive.
Yeah.
She cares.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's how I see it. Like, you're just trying to learn about things now, and I'm sure you're pretty perceptive to the fact that if you're asking a few questions and that person's not into it, you're not going to keep going.
Nope.
Like, you understand where that conversation is, and if it's not happening, it's not happening. But then there's times where you can ask a bunch of questions because this person or this kid or whoever is really interested and really excited to talk about it. That's why this podcast, people will come on. You might even said it too. I don't remember, but people will come on and be like, well, what am I going to talk about? And I always tell those people, everyone loves to talk about themselves. They just don't know it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think asking those questions, there's going to be more times than not, people are going to be wanting to
And
answer
that's
them.
another reason why I try to ask a lot of questions, because I don't want to make everything about me either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we all can,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But honestly, at the end of the day, Sarah's not that interesting, So
I don't know, Sarah. See, again, people are like that. But I mean, you've talked about a lot of things, a lot of experiences you had. There's a lot of things, a lot of interesting things that I think when you live your life, you're like, oh, this is just the things I do. But from an outside's perspective, I've never gone whitewater rafting. I don't like heights, so I don't jump off cliffs. All that kind of stuff. So all that's interesting to me, or anybody in general, if I talk about my life, well, this is just my life. Well, some people might think it's exciting to coach football or to coach these sports or to work at the Metroparks or any of that kind of stuff. But to me, it's just my life. And I think that's how you see it too, where you do exciting things and you have done exciting things. But to you, it's just like, well, it's just me, And I think that's sometimes I think people need to hype themselves up a little bit more. Like, hey, I have these experiences. Let me help you figure this out. Or, oh, you're going on this whitewater rafting trip. Let me tell you about my experiences so you don't do what I did or whatever,
don't be annoying.
Yeah. Don't ask a bunch of questions.
Like, how many people have died on the river? That's not always the greatest way to go about things.
Yeah, what are the worst things about this trip? And tell me as we're on the trip.
I know. I think back sometimes. My oldest son said it to me one time. He's like, Mom, sometimes you just need to think before you say things. And I'm like, thanks, honey. Yeah.
Yeah, kids will tell you whatever they want.
Yeah. Oh, man. But I love my oldest son. Like, he is my...
Just him, though. You don't love your other ones.
I love all
No,
three
I'm
of
just
them.
playing.
But it's funny that you say that. And you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Just wait. So you'll hear from your kids, oh, so-and-so is your favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, no. So I'm very articulative in how I say things. Like, so for my oldest son, I'll be like, you're my favorite oldest son.
Oh, yeah.
Ava, you're my favorite only daughter. CJ, you're my favorite youngest son. And I love you all for various reasons because they're all so different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
My mother-in-law, before there was another son-in-law involved, she would always tell me, you're my favorite son-in-law. But there was only one. But now she doesn't say it anymore because now there's 2. So.
Aw, see?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
I get it, yeah. And I think there was A friend of mine that was on here, Lexi, she was on a few episodes. She talked about she has 3 kids, and one of them asked her what her favorite one or who her favorite one was. She goes, I love you all. She goes, well, I asked Dad, and Dad told me who his favorite is.
Oh!
But he did say, like, you're my favorite today.
And there's been moments like that too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yep. They all. Well, here's a funny thing. So when our oldest son went. Okay, so I have 2 boys, and then the daughter's in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So there's 5 years between the 2 boys.
Okay.
And they didn't always get along growing up, right? They weren't super close, but
Yeah.
now they've gotten closer. But I remember CJ would always, you love Andrew more, blah, blah, blah. He's your favorite, da, da, da. Well, anyway, the milk was always going missing in the refrigerator, right?
Missing? Like,
Missing.
it would be
Like
gone?
I'd buy a gallon of milk and it'd be gone,
Okay,
right?
okay.
And so Andrew, my oldest, would always say, CJ drank all the milk. Ava drank all the milk,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. No big deal, whatever. He goes off to boot camp. The first 2 weeks that he was gone at boot camp, guess what spoiled in the refrigerator?
That dude was drinking all the milk.
Yeah, and I was like, and he thinks it's funny to this day because I
Yeah.
still bring it up. I was like, you threw your brother and sister under the bus all the time, lying, blaming them from drinking all the milk, and you were the one that drank all the milk.
Oh my gosh.
I know
Yeah.
it's stupid, but it's just little things like that, with your kids. You're just like,
Well, that, and you're still thinking about it now. Like, you still remember it. So it's one of
yeah,
those
you know
things
why?
that's
Because I cried.
Oh no.
Because I will be honest with you, because it wasn't the greatest time between him and I when he left, because he kind of got senioritis his sophomore year in high school.
Oh no. That's a little early. Yeah.
Yes. And he stressed me out, you
Yeah.
know? And I was trying everything to, I don't know, reach him,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
because I didn't quite understand, because he's a guy, first of all, and I'm a girl, right? So, and he shares the same birthday as my only brother, who's deceased now, okay? So I was like, always trying to reach him and stuff and trying to understand where he was coming from. And I didn't, and this and that. Well, anyway, he decided he was going to go in the Marine Corps. Like, that came out of the blue, right? I'm coming out of a hot yoga class, and he gives me a call, and he's like, hey, Mom, Staff Sergeant Coit's in the living room. I'm going to join the Marine
my
Corps.
gosh.
I'm like, what? How long are you going to be? So I get home, he joins, whatever. So when he left for the Marine Corps that summer, because he went right out of high school, we weren't at the greatest terms. Like, I was really frustrated with him, and I was like, you better figure things out, son, because you're not living in mama's basement till you're 30 years old.
Yeah,
Like, you better
yeah.
figure out what you're going to do. And then I had to kind of get hard on him and be like, if you don't make it through boot camp, I don't know what you're doing because you're not coming back here.
Yeah.
It's those hard conversations sometimes you have to have with your kids.
Did you, by telling him that, did you have a thought like, I don't think he's going to make it through?
Yeah, I did. I was scared.
Well, that was just based on the previous years where, like you said, he was basically senioritis sophomore year.
Honestly, because the Marine Corps, like, why are you joining the Marine Corps? Like,
Yeah.
that's the hardest boot camp ever. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why they say the few and the proud, And again, I'm not a big military person, especially at that time. I really didn't understand the military, but I knew that much about it. And I'm thinking, why is he going to do that? So again, out of fear, I was concerned he wasn't going to make it. And I'm like, what's he going to do? And this and that. And that actually drove him. We found out later on because he wanted to prove to his parents that he was going to be able to make it, which is kind of a cool story and everything. So, yeah. And so he went into the Marine Corps. And so I'm like, on one hand, I was thankful. He's out of the house. Yes, I can breathe. He's going to go do something positive, and he needs that discipline. And he'll even tell you, if he was sitting here right now, I joined because I needed the discipline.
Yeah.
He knew he needed that discipline. So, but the first couple weeks when he was gone at first, it's like, and then the milk spoils in the refrigerator and all these memories start flooding back. Conversations, irritated, mad, lying. Ava drank it all. CJ. It was that kid the whole time. I would give anything for him to come back and drink all the milk.
Isn't it? I can imagine your husband walking in and you're like have the spoiled milk, and he's just like, it's not that bad. It's just spoiled milk. But he's like, no, it's everything. It's not the milk.
So my husband and I are very drastically different, and he's like my Mr. Study. I call him my Mr. Study because I'm, very emotional and sensitive in different ways, whatnot. But yes, and he's always like, Sarah, relax, just relax. And I would always joke, that's my middle name. No, it's not, And yes, that's where
good.
I'm thankful for him, because I would have some of those moments and stuff. And that's where writing came into play over that summer. And then, of course, my kids all did swim team together, right? And that was the other thing I learned over the summer. So we did summer swim team all the time. All three of my kids, we had a little tent. We'd go set it up. And Andrew was always the one that roped all the kids to our tent. So I would make Kool-Aid, put it in a big jug. I'd love having kids,
Yeah.
you know, hanging out with us and stuff like that. Great experiences. The first swim meet, I realized, wow, what an asset Andrew was, because he would put up the tent for me. He would have his friends come help, and they would take down the tent and they would load it. And not that my other two didn't help her. It was just different.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you don't always realize those small little details until they're not there, and you're like,
Yeah.
you know?
And then yeah, I get it. Yeah,
It was
it's-
a very kind of depressing summer, and I felt guilty because I had these two other kids that are amazing in their own way, but it was just different. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So, but we worked through all that, and
Well, there's a firstborn thing too. Like, you know, that's just there's a certain attachment to that part of it also. Like,
are you a
like,
firstborn?
me, I am not. I'm second. Yeah.
I'm a firstborn.
Are you?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think there's like an attachment to that too. Like, this kid helped us learn how to be parents.
Yes.
Right. I feel that way with my son, like learning all these things. And then my daughter has maybe some benefits of not being the firstborn, because we understand a lot more, and she was, as a younger age, she was able to do more because we weren't afraid that they're going to break their head open on every little thing, you know.
Yep,
And
yep,
so she was
yep.
more free, you know. So there's benefits to that too. But there is some sort of like, you taught me how to be a parent to that firstborn.
I was neurotic with my firstborn. I remember my dad came to visit me, and he flew on a plane, and
Yeah.
he walked in my door. I said, "Go upstairs and take a shower before you touch my
Oh
baby."
my God.
Yes. Hence, relax, Sarah.
Yeah.
You know, fears. Again, fears, because RSV was a real thing and stuff like that. And I was a new mom, and I didn't know, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, yeah.
What'd your dad say when you said that?
He was cool with it. He was like, okay.
Yeah.
And he just rolled with it.
Yeah, I think my parents were cool too. Like, as far as like, okay, he's got to eat at 1:17, and then he's got to do this and do that and all this stuff. And my parents rolled with it for a while, and then we let him stay at their house, and we were doing all these things, and then finally my parents were like, you gotta stop. Like, like, we understand, and if you want them on your schedule, that's great. We're gonna follow schedule so they're not hungry, and they're not, you know, the diapers are changed and they take baths and stuff. But you gotta let us be grandparents too, and just let, you know. And once they said that, then I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like I know they're 100% safe there. The kids are, or
Yep.
at the time it was just Mateo. Like, he's safe. So I gotta like just let them be grandparents and let them do what they're gonna do, because they're not like, if they're gonna feed them 10 pounds of candy, well then I just gotta let them feed them 10 pounds of candy.
Oh.
You know, they're gonna figure that stuff out, and they also will figure out certain ways too, where my son will eat too much sometimes, and then he gets sick. So we told my parents that, and then it happened at their house, and they're like, all right, well we realize now.
My grandparents through marriage
Yeah.
used to love having my kids, and they had this big candy bowl that they hid in the bottom drawer.
Yeah.
I was furious when I found out about it. You're gonna give my kid cavities.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. You know, and I look back to that and I was like, oh my gosh, was it really that serious?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. So now I joke with my kids now, and I'm like, if you guys, because, you know, one's married. My daughter, she's doing her military thing, but she has a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so who knows where that will go, you know? I
Yep.
mean, who knows? But anyway, I'm like, yeah, if you guys ever decide to have any kids, they're coming over to grandma's house. And I'm not going to be the grandma to throw them in front of the TV. I'm going to be the grandma that's going to be like, we're going to the Metroparks.
Yeah.
We're going to go experience stuff. We're going to the library. We're going to actually read books. We're not coming over playing on the iPod. Nope, nope, no.
That's what my parents are really good at. Like, especially my dad. My dad, well, my mom always says when the kids come out, like they like she likes when my kids go over there because they tire my dad out. Like, like whenever I go over there, they're yelling and screaming and having good times. They're down in the basement or whatever, being loud, and my dad's running around the house with them and doing all this stuff, you know. And it's cool because, like, you know, and there is time. They're 11 and 8. There is time, like, for everyone to chill. You can go on your phone or whatever,
Yep.
right? But for the most part, when they go over there, they're not on their devices because my parents are just out doing stuff with them or going for walks or doing this or that, and it's fun to know that too.
My goal all the time when the kids were little, wear them out.
Yeah, yeah.
We did gymnastics. We went to the park all the time, rode bikes. Like, our oldest, Andrew, he learned to ride his bike on his own at 4. He was riding his bike without training wheels. And I would take that boy because he always had so much energy. That was the other thing. Andrew always had a lot of energy from the time he was in the womb to the time now to this day. He's just so much energy, you know. But it's so much fun energy, though, too. You know, like he's very enthusiastic. I mean, you might even have to invite him on this podcast. Yeah. You two would be a ball. Actually, I would be cracking up. Yes.
That's you know, talk about wearing them out, taking them places, doing stuff. A parent's worst fear is taking them somewhere. And they're toddlers, so they're still napping. So it's after nap time, but before bedtime. And the drive home, you're blasting music, trying to keep them awake because you don't want them to fall asleep in the car because it'll ruin everything.
Yep. I remember those days.
Yeah, you're like, you're driving, you're like, no, don't. You're like looking at the back seat. You're like, no, stay awake. Hey, you're okay. Yeah. Just trying to make all these noises so they're not asleep because they don't, especially with the firstborn, because you're in your thoughts. It's happened a few times in your thoughts. You're like, well, he's just not going to go to sleep now.
Right.
You know, and it's like you're just hoping and praying.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
My wife sent me a video or showed me a video yesterday. My son was a real light sleeper. And he would there was a stage where he would get mad if we weren't in the room with him.
Oh my goodness.
So there was what we would have to do. We lived in Toledo at the time and our house had pretty creaky floors. But we knew, I think we might even put tape on the ground where we could step where it wasn't creaking. And so we'd put him down, step on these stairs or on these spots and then leave. And then we got to a point where we had to lay in the hallway so he could see us. So I would be in the hallway, just with a pillow and a blanket, sleeping there for the night because he had to see us. Otherwise, he wouldn't be sleeping, you know. But then, with our daughter, it was like, all right, close the door, see you, bye. You know, good night, love you. You know?
That's so funny. And just the difference in personality. I remember times like that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like our oldest son, I always had to have nap time. So I always kept them busy. We would ride our bikes to the library. We were always doing something.
Yeah.
I even washed my clothes and hung them out on a clothesline back when they were little for something to do outside.
Yeah.
So when we were in the backyard, I'd be hanging out the clothes and then I had stuff for them to do. We were just always outside. But anyway, we always had nap time. So when I would put him in his crib, because he stayed in his crib till, I don't know, 2 or whatever, or then when I transitioned him into the twin bed, he still had to have nap time and he had to stay in his crib, bed, whatever, wherever he was at the time, and he had to look at books. Well, this is the difference in personalities. He would look at the book and the first 5 seconds he'd throw it out of the bed, you know. Or I made steamers all the time. He'd throw it against the wall. Like he was such a stinger. I was like, well, that was your choice. So good night. I'll see you in an hour or whatever. We're having quiet time.
Wait. What's a steamer?
A steamer. We would take milk. We'd warm it up in the microwave and add flavored coffee creamer.
Oh, okay.
So like hazelnut. Yes. Yeah. And tryptophan. Turkey. Milk makes you tired.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
Okay, steamer.
They loved it, so we called them steamers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So our daughter, our only daughter, she was a complete opposite. I put her to bed, whether it was in her crib. I mean, even the time she was 6 months, she would sit up in her crib, I'm not kidding you, and look at books.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Never threw things out. Never. She would just look at it, totally content, just the difference and I'll never forget this. One night, I always had this bedtime routine with my kids, a whole shebang, we had to do this whole thing and it always included a story and goodnight prayers and this and that.
Yeah.
Lots of I love yous. So my daughter, and she's still to this day, she's very organized, likes things a certain way, this and that. Every night I'd come into her room and she would be like, everything had to be off the floor. Her clothes had to be set out for the next day. Her closet doors had to be shut. Everything had to be so. She was the type of kid, if we go to Cracker Barrel, she would play in the candles and organize them by color. That was her, right?
Yeah.
I'll never forget this, and it's just in my mind. So that night I tucked her in, and I remember leaving her bedroom, thinking, oh my gosh, what am I creating? A neurotic child, you know? Then I go into my son's room, and my husband had just built bunk beds because we had our third son by this point in time, but we hadn't transitioned him to the bunk bed, whatever. And Andrew, so we had on top of our bunk bed, if you could picture this, it was just a frame. There was no bed up there. Mm-hmm. So he had his bed and then he had a frame up top. So eventually we were going to put the mattress and it was going to be a bunk bed, double bunk bed, whatever. Yeah. Andrew turned that frame into hanging every stitch of clothing that he owned. I'll never forget. So I left my daughter's room. I go into his room, and he's all excited to see me for our bedroom routine. He goes, look, Mom, look. I wake up in the morning, I just pull this down, I get dressed, and I go on my day. And I'm looking at, oh my gosh, he just pulled out every piece of clothing out of his drawers and hung it around his bed. Difference in personality.
Yeah. Wow, that's funny.
And if you think about it, it's very entrepreneurish, right?
Sure. Find a new way to do something, right? Make it easier. Hey, Mom, you don't have to get my clothes. You don't have to spend time. Here it is. Just easy. Bang,
I don't
bang.
even have to get out of bed. I'm just going to pull it down, get dressed.
And you got to remind them, well, there's still underwear that you got to put on too here, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, I appreciate you coming on here. It was really great talking to you. I look forward to working with you again. I think you said before the podcast that's the plan, to be able to come back out.
Yes. Yep.
So I look forward to that. Again, I appreciate you being out there because it is real easy for me to say, here's the things, go do that thing, whatever it is. And a lot of times it is garbage, and I always feel bad for you guys having to pick up garbage. But but you're always just like, that's fine, we're good.
I love it. And do you want to know when I stopped working with the kids and you? I'm still doing this. Like, I look at all the garbage along the roads.
Yeah.
And like, they have a new trail over by where I live. So I live off of Jackman, right? And they have this new bike trail and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the name of it is, but it runs along there. I was weeding the little garden areas and picking up trash. And it's so bad right now. Like, I am compulsive about this now. And I find myself going over. So anyhow, one day I'm doing it, right? And then I'm like, I'm just going to do a few. And then 2 hours later, I'm still weeding and doing this stuff. And it's like therapeutic for me. I don't know. This one guy was walking by. He's like, I appreciate all your service. And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, thanks.
Yeah.
Like he thought maybe I was a park worker or something.
Well, I can tell you, if you're interested, we're always looking for more volunteers. So if it's before or after you're done with the kids, I'll definitely put I could definitely use you downtown, pulling weeds, picking up garbage, whatever you want. So if that's something you're looking to get out and see the other parks, let me know. But again, I appreciate all the work you do. Thanks for coming on here. You're a wonderful person. It's great talking to you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I don't know how interesting this podcast would be, but I would love to come back anytime because this is a lot of fun. You're fun to talk to.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I always tell people, like, obviously I want people to listen to this.
Right.
But first and foremost, I'm doing it for me. Like, this is fun. This is fun for people to come on here. People really enjoy it. I enjoy it. So first and foremost, that's my number one goal is for me to have fun doing it, and I do. Second goal is, yes, I want people to listen, so hopefully people do, and I think people will. Like, you have a great personality, and it's it shows in just talk all your stories and everything, and that's what this podcast is. Let's highlight stories. Let's highlight memories. Let's whatever it turns into. This episode it turns into and it was a perfect episode. So I appreciate.
And I forgot to tell you when you asked me. There's actually a lot of things I do enjoy, like. I forgot to mention laughing yoga, but maybe we'll have to talk about this next time. Oh,
definitely. Yeah. Laughing yoga. All right.
It's a thing.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks to Sarah for coming on the podcast today. It was a great episode. It's not a normal episode where we try to, hey, where'd you grow up to where you're at today? But it was perfect because I just want this podcast to turn into conversations, and that's what this was. It was a great conversation episode. Learned about her different trips she went on, the stuff that she wants to do, having conversations about kids, which obviously I have kids, so it's fun to talk about kids and learn from other parents. So it was just a great episode, just conversation for an hour. So I appreciate her for coming on here. Thanks, as always, to Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing me to use their building. It's really helped the podcast. When people come on here, it's such a professional look, a professional feel, as opposed to just being in my basement surrounded by kids' toys. So this is a great partnership. If you need any information about them, check out fortmeigscrossfit.com. And thanks to Cuttlefish Graphics, Big Daddy Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Real JP Multimedia for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.